Welcome to Toby on Fitness Tech. This is my first look at the Speediance 2S. Please hit the like and subscribe button if you like this kind of content, especially the like button if you want to see more information on the Speediance 2S. I've just received this yesterday, so this is truly a first look at it. I got it home, put it in my living room right now. That's why it's sitting next to the original Speediance. It's actually meant to go up in my office, and I can explain that in a little bit, but I wanted to give you the meat of the review right away. So there were two criteria on, is the Speediance 2S worth it for me? Full disclosure, when it was delivered, by the way, it's delivered by pallet to my house, unlike the original Speediance, which was actually just straight up delivered into my house because they brought it up on a dolly, and it was a lot smaller of a package because it didn't have a bench in it. And I think anytime you're buying one with a bench, I'm pretty sure it'll come in a pallet. So it was delivered via pallet, and I'm not sure if that's all of them or specific to the 2S, but the 2S was delivered on a pallet, which is kind of a big deal because that was delivered right into my house. This one was delivered to the other end of my property, and I had to figure out a way to get it from there into my house, and it turns out that meant unboxing it outside and bringing it the whole way back across my property into the house. Not too big of a deal, but definitely a shocker. When it came relatively early in the morning, so was not expecting that. So over lunch, it ended up getting put into my house. Definitely an interesting experience getting this thing in. It required unboxing it outside and just rolling it across because these things are on rollers, and then lifting it into the house. Definitely a more interesting experience than the original Speediance that was just a month and a half ago. So these units are actually both fairly new. These are not old units. These are new units from Speediance within 2 months of each other. So the meat and the potatoes of this, though, is the 2S worth it? And my answer to you is it depends. I'm not going to give a yes or no answer. And for me, it was two criteria of is it worth it? And that was, how loud is the device? And does it feel heavier? And significantly heavier. And the reason why I bring that up is I just did a video on the Tonal and the Tonal 2. And my decisions around moving away from Tonal, that link is in the description below. You click that to go back and see why I left the Tonal. And my justification for buying two Speediances at the end of the day to replace the Tonal is the Tonal 2 total cost of ownership is actually more expensive than buying both of these devices, which is absolutely crazy to think about the math on that. That you can buy two devices, have one in your office, one in your living room, and still be money ahead of buying a Tonal and amortizing it over 5 years for the life expectancy of the device, which I think is about where I got with the Tonal, is about 5 years before I bought these guys in total. Maybe 4 years, something like that, 4 or 5 years. But yeah, so my two criteria is it quiet and is it heavy? So first, is it quiet? So this is in standby mode and it's dead silent. So there is no noise coming out of this Speediance 2S at all in standby mode. I was shocked. I thought it was not actually on because that's not the experience of the original Speediance Gym Monster. So I was, very shocked that this power supply makes no noise in standby mode, and that's incredible to me. And then when you actually turn it on, you will hear a slight noise, and I'll pause for a second and I'll pipe in the audio of the noise that it makes when it's on. So that's the noise that it makes. And in my opinion, that noise is perfect for in my office because I already have an air purifier up there, and this noise is quieter than the air purifier's noise, It's about equivalent to somewhere between low and medium on the fans that I have above me. When the fan was on medium, I actually couldn't hear this. So I have a fan that's right next to me, and that fan on medium, I can't hear this Speediance at all. So I actually thought it made no noise, which is perfect. So that means this is quiet enough to be in my office and to be able to do sets, you know, like on the hour, once an hour, if that's the cadence that I want to do, and just leave it up on the screen and do them as I get time, kind of thing. This makes this absolutely viable for my office and as a true replacement to the original tonal, if I think it's heavy, right? And so I wanted to demonstrate that for you real quick, because the real, and I actually tried it ahead of time just to see what it would look like when I tried. So I could deadlift a lot of weight. So I was expecting this to be trivial, but what I forgot about, and you can see it's already set to 260 pounds. So this device is actually already set at that weight. I want to make sure that you can actually see you can actually see the 260 on the screen. So it's already set to the max weight because I was already trying this, but I forgot that these devices, the 200 pounds, the 260 pounds, they don't feel the same as when you're free lifting. And what that means is my 1 rep max on bench on a free lift is 245. I had never hit 200 on the tonal, and I cannot max the original Speediance on bench in general. So like these devices feel far heavier because you don't have the momentum to carry you through. So just realize that I'm expecting this 260 pounds. Well, at first I thought, oh, it's going to feel a lot lighter. And that's because I'll explain to you what tonal did with the tonal 2. And so I was expecting this 260 to actually not feel much heavier than that 220. Not 40 pounds heavier, and well, I'll turn it on and show you. There we go. Okay, by the way, I'm still getting used to the ring clip and where I should be placing this ring. So this ring clip is actually a huge addition that I didn't realize. The original Speediance doesn't come with it, but this ring clip is actually makes it feel a lot more like the tonal. And I think it probably should go like that to be able to click it a little easier. So I'm hitting it with the back of my thumb. But I can tell you, when I'm doing that on the original Speediance, where you can hear I'm out of breath, right? I would have to be at, that was 6 reps, and some of those reps were questionable at best. It's, in terms of the quality of the form, that kind of stuff, it is way heavier. I can do basically unlimited reps until my cardio fails on the original Speediance. And that felt heavy. I mean, that felt way heavier than it did on the, I was shocked. I was absolutely shocked at how heavy that 260 pounds goes. I'm actually gonna have to work to be able to deadlift on this thing. And you can hear out of breath, muscular fatigue, I can feel it. That's the other thing, I don't even feel it in my quads when I'm doing deadlifts on the original Speediance. All I feel is my cardio get tired. Like the 220 versus 260, it's a massive difference. It absolutely, and it gives me room to grow with my benching ability, getting back into squats if I ever get back into them. So this device will give me a lot more room to grow, and I'll be able to grow into it. And even something like deadlifts, it provides real value. So, which honestly, all of the other machines, the Tonal, the Speediance, there was no value to deadlifting on that for me because it wasn't hitting any of the target muscles. It was just a cardio workout. Like I can do cardio outside and go for a run. Like I'm not going to waste my time doing cardio on one of these machines. By the way, that is also my opinion of doing cardio on one of these machines. Unless you're specifically buying like the rower, or like you want to learn how to ski and like bounce, like there's like specific things that this thing does. Like I actually just bought the ski ergs because I wanted a second clip, and they offer a bundle deal of this clip plus the ski ergs for a discount on them. And I'm like, well, I didn't feel like paying $40 for this little metal clip, but for whatever reason, if you combine it with the ski ergs and make it $100, it's easier for me to justify in my head, like, oh, this cool thing that maybe my wife will use, these ski ergs, plus this little clip that I think is awesome, like that really is a game changer. It doesn't come with the original Speediance. So that was the second part of this video that I wanted to explain to you what I think you should be buying. And honestly, my personal opinion is you should either be buying this device or this device. And now I'll explain to you the big con of the original Speediance, and it's not going to be what you expect. Make sure you want to exit okay. So the big con of the original Speediance, in my opinion, is of course you're not going to get as much resistance, but you're not going to get as much resistance if you buy the Speediance 2, right? But the big con for me in particular is the noise of the device. And your mileage may vary with the noise. So I actually reached out to the Speediance team and was 50-50 on returning this whenever I originally got it, because this was supposed to replace the tonal up in my office originally whenever I purchased it. But with that noise, I couldn't justify replacing the tonal up there. So I ended up, keeping it downstairs and trying to make the decision on it. But I reached out to the Speediance team and they said, yes, that is normal, that the power supply can be that noisy. There's nothing wrong with this device. It's just the variance. Some people got loud ones, some people got quiet ones. And if I turn it on, you'll be able to hear it. That's the other thing. In standby mode, it's pretty loud, So it's loud in standby mode, it's loud during startup. It's the power supply fan. It sounds like a late 90s era PC, actually, is what this sounds like. I actually had a gaming PC back in the day. It is the same loudness as this device, which is pretty funny to, 20 years later, hear the power supply fan noise of that machine. So this device, and I could show you me deadlifting on that and show that it's infinitely easier. I mean, it's just infinitely easier. I'm not gonna bother to do that today. If someone wants to see them side by side, I can do that. But yeah, this is significantly easier. I'm gonna pause for a second and let you hear the fan noise to understand how much louder it is. Okay, so that should give you a good idea of the difference in the noise. And so even whenever I put this thing in standby mode, you heard the fan tilted a little bit in its noise and then stayed at the same volume level. So again, this isn't something that's a big deal for in my living room, because in my living room it's always loud. There's a TV blaring, I've got kids running around. So this, for my living room, this was perfect, but for my office, it was unacceptable. And there was a thought in me of returning it, but once I got the thing, I loved having eccentric mode back. I love being able to do workouts right before I go into the gym in the morning and have it down here, because I'm usually getting ready down here and drinking my coffee and all of that kind of stuff I'm doing down here. So I loved having a device that was down here that I wasn't tracking on a spreadsheet and bringing out my iPad and checking off pieces of detail. Because what I was doing when I turned off the membership on the Tonal is I was tracking everything by spreadsheet, but that also meant that I could track, for the first time ever, my adjustable dumbbell workouts. So back behind these devices, I actually have what the original Speediance is replacing. So the original Speediance, I apologize, I didn't unload the weights from these. These are the new bells. These are the 80-pound new bells. These are one of the best adjustable dumbbells on the market, but they're you drop them and you're gonna break them. So I also have and I don't have the weight loaded up on this, thankfully, because these go up to 90 pounds. I have the Power Block Elite 90 EXP, which if I want to do carries across the floor and back, these are still going to live on for carries across the floor, because it's pretty cool to carry 90 pounds across your floor, because that's a thing every guy wants to be able to do. And it's pretty cool to have those at the max weight. And so I have all these back here, and that's what this original Speediance is replacing. So I already had an adjustable bench down here to use these. So I already had everything I kind of needed. Now I will say some must-haves for the original Speediance. If you do go the route of, my opinion is you should either be buying this device because you want to future-proof yourself, you want the maximum weight possible. Everything on this, by the way, seems redesigned from the original Speediance. I don't know how much of it was redesigned in the 2 versus the 2S. I can tell you the speaker definitely came in the 2 because that's one of the things they advertise. And I'm assuming some of the other redesigns, like some of the cabling redesigns, came in the 2. I just don't know how many of them. It's very clear that this is a different cable cord. This is a different cable attachment style. This back latch system is totally different. And I don't know if it came with the 2 or the 2S, but there's actually a very big difference. And this will be huge for someone who's first time user and doesn't read the manual and doesn't watch my reviews. So not probably anyone who's listening, but someone who doesn't read the review, doesn't read the manual and decides to use this thing. So if I put this up, I'm gonna move these off of here real quick. So slide these up off, take this thing out of standby mode to make this easy. All of these devices and the tonals like this too, you need to take them out of standby mode when you're moving things around. It makes the cables a lot lighter and looser. So that's one of the things that you forget about, and all the machines are like that I like. So this is now up here. So the big thing is the buttons on the side look the same, but watch when I hit this button. So if I'm down here and I hit this button, right? You see that? It's going down nice and slow. It has like a spring in it. So that, I don't know if that came with the 2 or if that's new to the 2S, but I can tell you that's a giant addition because, it's only a giant addition if you're an idiot like me and the first time you have the device, you sit here like this, hit the button and drop it on your head. I'm not gonna do that because this thing weighs about 30 pounds and it didn't tickle whenever it hit me in the head. Thankfully I do jujitsu and it's not the first time I've been dropped on my head, hit my head. It's a pretty common occurrence, but it was not my favorite experience. And I realized when you're taking this thing down with the original Speediance, and it's telling you this, but I didn't understand this graphic, right? The way to do this is hand here, push, and if you're strong enough to hold it with one hand. I think their thing has you holding it with 2 hands, but if you can lift over 30 pounds, which hopefully within a couple weeks of using this device, you could do that, or a couple months depending on your starting strength level. You could one-handed it, but you have to have that hand up there when you hit that button, because I dropped it straight on my head. So that was it's just one of those kind of odd niceties of this new device, and I can tell you it met my criteria for buying this and putting it in my office. And in my opinion, you should only be looking between these two devices. You either have the money for the latest, greatest, higher weight, best of breed Speediance, and there's no question this is it, or you're looking to get a great device, and you don't care about the loudness of the device. And in that case, this thing's phenomenal. I mean, it can do everything this can do, except it doesn't quite have the weight. And that's where I don't understand where people are saying, should I buy the 2 or the 2S? It's like, that's not even the question I'd be asking. It's, should I buy the original Speediance at, right now it's on sale for like $2,400, and it ranges between $2,400 and $2,600. It's never the full price anymore. Or you're paying almost double for this device. And I actually do think the double the money is worth it, surprisingly. I really thought when this thing was sitting on the other side of my property, I'm like, I'm gonna get this thing into the house. It's gonna be loud, it's not gonna feel heavy, it's just gonna get returned. You know what I mean? That was my initial thought. I'm like, this thing is getting returned. I paid full price for both these devices. I didn't get any discounts. I'm not sponsored by Speediance in any way. These are completely unbiased reviews. And so I really felt that this thing was just going to get returned until I got it in here and realized all of the small changes on the device, even like, the grate that's down here. I'm like, they made so many adjustments to this device, it's got to be quieter. And sure enough, I mean, it's near silent. Oh, and the other thing that I wanted to discuss, why these Speediances when I was replacing the tonal and not another device. I saw a lot of that on the Reddit community of people who are who decide not to get the Speediance and get another device. So I don't want any device that you can't do a lat pull down on. So if I'm picking the ability to deadlift and squat, or the ability to do lat pull downs and accessory work that requires the handles to be up high, so cable pull downs, all that kind of stuff, I'm picking that every day, because you got to remember that my strength training is also a recovery modality from other things I'm doing. And when I was squat, deadlifting, and benching, I was constantly injuring myself. So more on that in the tonal video that's linked below. I don't want to go into the full details of why I switched to one of these types of machines, but the specifics on this machine instead of one that's on the ground is I need the ability to have this high cable attachment. So a lot of people are picking other small, like cheaper digital trainers that can do almost the same weight that are only on the ground. Well, those aren't even an option for me. Like those are immediately eliminated. And then I also didn't want to get into a device where the membership is baked into it after my experience with the tonal and them raising the membership price on every single member and basically saying 1 month you're paying this, 1 month you're going to pay that. And if you don't like it, you can cancel and we'll break your device. Good luck, right? I really didn't like the idea that I would lose basic functionality if the company decided they don't have enough money. So I really wanted to focus on a device that doesn't have a membership as its core functionality. And I know a lot of people are upset over the AI coach stuff that is now $10 a month on these, but none of that matters to the way I build programs, the way I lift. And I'll be moving this up to the office and totally replacing the tonal, replacing all my custom workouts from, like, I have a whole bunch of custom workouts that are now in spreadsheets that were from the tonal. That's all going to get put onto this machine. And I'm really excited about it. I'm really excited to be making this move. But yeah, this machine, I think lives up to the hype. Like, I think it's worth the money. If you either need the extra resistance or you need a quiet environment, which is a very weird requirement. The only case I would ever see buying the Speediance 2 instead of the Speediance, the original Speediance, the only case I would ever see buying that thing is if you specifically need the sound system and then realize you can buy a Bluetooth sound system for a couple $100 and save yourself a ton of money. Like, you don't have to pay double the price on a resistance machine to have a good sound system. Like, that seems ludicrous to me, but that is the big addition of the speed. And they added one arm position, which is honestly not going to matter. Like, that just frankly doesn't matter, right? They just shifted where these are. Like, that's pretty much irrelevant. Because you can see there's L9 on this one and there's L8 on that one. They just added a level, right? They redid the leveling system. The top one's a little higher. The bottom one is actually about the same position. That's going to be irrelevant. I'm sure some of the internals were upgraded with the Speediance too, but not enough that they could actually push the additional 40 pounds of weight. And I can tell you, that 40 pounds feels heavy. You know, it feels like, so these things are at 45, and this is lighter, far lighter than that additional 40 pounds. So it feels like they added, 60 to 80 pounds of traditional weight. So I'll put this thing at 60. Right, so I'm gonna put this thing at 60. This is why the new bells were awesome. Yeah, it feels like an additional 60 pounds of weight. So this feels like the additional weight from just trying to deadlift on both of these devices. It feels much closer to 60 pounds than it does 40 pounds. And I'm not shocked at that, because the original Speediance came out at 220 to mimic Tonal's 200 pounds. And I can tell you, the Tonal at 200 and the Speediance at 220, they feel the same heaviness. So just realize, like, those numbers are kind of funny numbers, right? And in fact, Tonal, this is one of the things that I didn't get into in the Tonal video, but I might as well get into it here because I have a little bit of time to explain it. Tonal actually re-engineered their 0 to 50 weight on the Tonal 2. So realize it goes up to 250 pounds. This goes up to 260 pounds. I would theorize this 260 pounds feels way heavier than Tonal's 250 pounds. And here's why. Because when Tonal redid the weights, I highly doubt Speediance recalculated all their weights when they went to 260, right? And they don't market any of that. They don't tell us any of that. But Tonal did, and they made the mistake of doing that. And then I questioned them on it, and they said no, but they didn't give me any details. So my question to them was, they re-engineered 0 to 50 to be lower increments between the weights. Meaning, like, if it was 1 pound between weights before, it's 0.7 now between the weights. And the reason why they did that is to make the weights feel closer to the natural weight. Because I will say, it's not a criticism of the Tonal or the Speediance. The Speediance seems a little closer, actually, which might make sense because their original range was 0 to 220, and that's actually, their 0 to 220 is actually Tonal's 0 to 200. Like, I would imagine they're actually similar-ish weights. And so their weight is actually closer to what it would feel at 40 pounds of a dumbbell, right? So you're bicep curling, and that 40 pounds is similar-ish to the 40 pounds on a dumbbell, but the Tonal 40 pounds felt like 60 pounds. Like, it felt super heavy. So they re-engineered that, and you're thinking, oh, well, great. But this device also adds 50 extra pounds. So they just took away, probably about 10 pounds of weight, 15 pounds, I'd say 15 pounds of weight. So the new device is not 250 pounds, it's 235 pounds, right? So I was so afraid you spend $5,000, you bolt something to your wall, and then you realize it's not any heavier than the original. At least this one, there's a 30-day money back guarantee. I can ship it back to them, right? And it's not bolted to my wall. Like, I don't have to make the decision up front. This thing's going on my wall. In 30 days I want to return it. I got giant holes in my wall. They don't fix those, by the way. if you send it back, they also have a return policy, but realize you got giant holes on your wall. So, and I was very afraid that they're 250 pounds, because they said, oh no, we didn't do that. But what that would mean is, from the only way that could mathematically work is if from 200 to 250 they added weight. And that's exactly what I think Speediance did here. That 220 to 260 feels heavy, like feels really heavy. So I'm guessing they spread the spread from 220 to 260, and this machine is far heavier than I expected. So I'm very impressed with the machine so far. So for a first look, I can tell you, if you want the best experience on Speediance in terms of weight capabilities, this is the guy to go with. And if you want lower cost of entry, and not just like a little bit lower cost of entry, but a lot lower cost of entry, I mean, this, if this thing was as quiet as this, it would have went up in my office, and I wouldn't have even been entertaining a new device that's 260 pounds. I would have been waiting for a device that could do like 400 pounds, right? But because I couldn't actually replace the tonal with it because it's just too loud, I kind of had to wait around, and I didn't want to buy the 2 because it didn't have any additional weight capabilities on it, and I didn't think it was enough of an upgrade to justify. But with this device, it is. It definitely is. One other thing though, if you're buying the original Speediance and you go that route, I would recommend buying your own adjustable bench. That's what I'm looking at in the background. I'm looking at my own adjustable bench. So I would buy your own adjustable bench, buy the base model, and then the other thing that I would buy, let me see where I have them. Yeah, so I have them in here. So I would buy 2 things, and one I didn't find out until I got the Speediance 2S. But these are the power grips. These are their Bluetooth handles. These are $200. So I would buy the base Speediance, the $200 handle. And I know it sounds dumb to spend $40 on this thing, but I would definitely buy this ring clip. So I would be buying the ring clip, I'd be buying the Bluetooth handles, and that would come out to an additional $240 on top of it. You don't have to buy them day and date, but I would pick one to buy day and date. So I'd either be buying the handles, which is what I bought, or I'd be buying, if you're going to be doing more bench style stuff, I would be buying this clip. Because if you lift heavy, I mean, I'm just going to be blunt. If you lift heavy, you can't put that ring on your finger. Like, there's no way, you know, I mean, but realize this is someone who's lifts heavy enough to break the innards of a tonal handle. And it'll be very interesting if I do it with one of these within a couple years, you know, within 5 years, because I plan on getting stronger again over the winter. Right now I'm getting leaner, but over the winter I plan on getting stronger, and I'm really curious if I can do the same thing with one of these, because it's actually pretty cool to think that I'm strong enough to snap the innards on one of these. And it still worked, which was mind-boggling, and I imagine this one will too, just because it's built pretty tough. But yeah, I would definitely splurge on getting these Bluetooth handles, getting that ring clip. If you're benching, the ring clip is a must-have, so that you're bringing it up and down, and then you're pressing with your thumb outside. So you're taking your thumb and you're rotating it out and clicking, instead of this concept of having the thing on your finger and trying to hit it with your other finger, because it's actually making a connection with the bar. I can't imagine people can lift heavy with that thing on their finger and not be have a sore finger, because I'm gripping, you know, when I'm lifting something, I'm gripping as hard as I can when I'm lifting heavy. And if you're not gripping as hard as you can, that means you're not lifting heavy enough. You need to up the weight. I mean, that's kind of my bottom line on that idea. A lot of the accessory movements, obviously I'm not gripping nearly as hard, and I was able to use the ring. So I do a lot of like flies and this style of motions, these lateral raises, that kind of stuff. For all of that, and that is actually why I kept the machine, is because just to be able to track the lateral raises, the cable flies, all the other stuff that I do that adds volume to my workout, and to not have to enter it into something. Like the time consuming nature of entering in, for months I've been, I would take these things, I would take these new bells, I'd bring them down, I would start at 15 pounds, right? I'll do it with just one hand. I'd start at 15 pounds and I'd be doing these lateral raises, right? So I'm going out doing these lateral raises, and then I'm counting all of my reps, I'm tracking my sets, I'm putting them into the logbook, then I'm upping the weight to the 20 pounds, to the 20, you know what I mean? And I'm trying to progressively overload these like I do everything else, but it's adding so much time, and I feel like it's so big of a waste of my time, and I'm very conscious of this is an absolute waste of my time whenever it comes to not actually progressing things, and to be checking this off in my logbook is just flat out annoying. So to have a machine that can do all that is going to be great. The one thing that I have noticed so far is if you do have two machines, it does log you out of the one machine when you log into the other one. So that's going to be something I have to be cognizant of. I can use the Speediance app, scan the QR code, and it logs me back in, or type in my password. So it's not a deal breaker, but it's definitely something that it doesn't just, you click on your name on either one and it connects you in. I wish it did that. I wish it didn't actually boot you out of the other one. Also, it doesn't have, this machine doesn't have so over here, it doesn't have the history of that machine. So in the notifications. So the notifications area in particular is going to be machine specific, but in your profile and in your app, you'll have all of your workouts. So don't worry, it's tracking it all, and it's tracking it all across devices. I was a little paranoid about that at first. It does track across the two devices perfectly fine. I personally feel that the 2S, and I cannot believe I'm saying this because I really thought when it was sitting on the other side of my property and I realized I had to bring it 5,000 feet across my property in the box, across the whole property. The second I actually went to pull it out of the box, I realized, oh no, this is a very different device. Even though they look, I'm sure at this distance, they look the same. I'll show pictures below of the differences, and they are very, very different in small ways. And those small ways add up to making, I think, a big difference in the long run. And I think you'll be very happy with either device if your circumstances are right. So if your circumstances are this thing's going in a living room or in a gym where you're clanging and banging around and you don't care about loudness and you don't care about having the latest, greatest, heaviest device ever, you're getting this one. This thing's phenomenal. There's no question. If I had to pick this or the tonal, ignoring the loudness factor, right, I would pick this in a heartbeat over the tonal, which is pretty wild. I will say there's one thing that is different about these devices, and that's the tonal's arms when it's at the top is over here, and these arms are up here. So when you're doing lat pull downs, you're going to be wanting to do them on your knees to get the maximum extension, especially if you're 6 foot tall like me. But I did most of my lat pull downs on the tonal on my knees anyway. So it was my lat pull downs were always done on my knees anyways. I wasn't doing them standing, and I very rarely did them from the bench anyways, because the bench wouldn't give you, it would be more of a horizontal pull and less of a vertical pull. The difference in where the arms end up, because the arms on the tonal end up higher and out, but very few things on the tonal use the maximum arm height. And in fact, the arms feel kind of sketchy on the tonal at the max, because I've done it, the maximum weight on the tonal at the highest point, and it actually didn't break the device, which is pretty mind-boggling. And Coop from Garage Gym Reviews actually shows him doing this, and I've done it on the tonal, which is just mind-boggling. which you're not going to be able to do on this device because of the way it's engineered, or unless you're like 100-pound, 5'4" girl, you're not going to have this device pull you up. But I was actually, whenever I was down at 185, that machine can launch you into the air. It can actually pull you up to the machine, and it did it with Coop too, which is pretty cool to see something bolted to your wall that can pull you up. So I'm not saying the tonal device is not a phenomenal device. I'm just saying when you include cost as a factor, either of these two devices are a far better investment of your money, in my opinion. And my opinion is, if you want the latest, greatest, best device on the market, I actually think this Gym Monster 2S is that. So that's a pretty wild standpoint for me to have, considering there's so many of these devices out there. I'm actually going to get a chance. A buddy of mine has the Oxfit. I had never gotten a chance to try it. I'm actually going to get a chance to go out there and try it. I vetoed that one because the Oxfit has a membership like Tonal. You don't know if their funding is going to still exist in a couple years. It also requires professional installation. It has all of the trappings of Tonal without obviously being bolted to your wall directly. It's still not a very movable machine. But I want to get the chance to try it. I mean, I'm a nerd for this kind of stuff. I'm a nerd for all of this fitness technology. But that was my first look at the Speediance 2S. If you have any more questions on the 2S, shoot them over to me, because I know I already got questions from a couple of my buddies on the rower in particular, and I'm sad to say I don't have it. So it's not something I have, and the reason why I don't have it is sitting right next to me is the Teeter Power 10, which the Teeter Power 10 is not much more expensive than the rower for the Speediance. And if you're apples to apples buying something, I think the Power 10 is a better device for your money if you have the space for it, right? This comes down to space. The one thing with the Speediance is they market themselves on being a low amount of space required. And what's funny is I actually don't care for my office. This ability to pull this up and down and have the spring, ironically, I don't need the one with the spring in the office, and I'd rather have the one with the spring that lowers itself down slowly downstairs. Like, I wish that feature was swapped on the two, because the one downstairs is going to get pulled up and pulled down. The one that's upstairs in my office is always going to stay in down position. It's just always going to be down there, because it doesn't matter to me. It can just stay in the down position. You also notice the whole time I was talking in this review, this was on, and that could never happen with the original Speediance. It is that loud that I had to immediately turn it back off afterwards, because it would distract me, because it's that loud of a device. And that's not everyone's Speediance. So the power supply loudness is very variable on your individual Speediance. And honestly, it's not a deal breaker for anything that would be in a gym. I mean, I had a PC that was louder back in the day, and I obviously dealt with that for years, but I had giant headphones on when I was playing video games. And, I had a giant PC, giant headphones, 32-inch monitors. I was a huge gamer back in the day. And that's where this passion for fitness tech came from, is it came from a passion for technology. I mean, I'm wearing two different devices right now, and I'll probably discuss those in the future too. The Whoop versus the Garmin versus the Amazfit, because I got the Amazfit for my wife, and I'm going to do a breakdown of those three devices. But this was the first look at the Speediance 2S. The rower I don't have. I have the Teeter Power 10. I would love to try out the rower. I'm not opposed to people sending me stuff, that's for sure. I will try it out and let everyone know that it was sent to me and I didn't pay for it. I'm not opposed to trying that out and showing what the rower is capable of and comparing it to the Teeter Power 10. But for my money, I can't justify. And I thought about it actually, because and I actually asked the question, like, why does this not come with the rower? It did not make sense to me that for the most expensive, highest end device, they're not shipping it with the rower. And the only thing that I can think of, and this is what really had me hesitant to buy it, and I went back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, should I get this thing? because I think they're going to come out with a Speediance 2 Max, which has a bigger screen like they did with the original Speediance, and has the rower and has all the other stuff bundled with it, and come out probably, but it'll probably be at a, if they do that, it's going to be like at a $5,500 price point, even if they don't up the resistance, which they might do something where they have the ability to up the resistance by changing the way the motors work. There'd be the potential of somehow putting motors in the base, and then have a separate cable system for the base. If it had a separate cable system for the base and had the ability to like connect the motors in some way, so it had cords running from the base into there, some sort of a system that kind of powered the base itself, and the base had its own power, had its own cords, they could get that 400, 500 pounds of resistance that the Vitruvian has. But that's a complete redesign of the way these things are built. And people were asking, why is this thing so much more expensive? And it's like, these small redesigns cost a lot of money and a lot of R&D. So I'm not willing to pay for something if it provides value. And even like their clip, I was a little iffy about buying their clip because it's $40, but these are all metal clips. Like, these are not Foxconn produced pieces of plastic. These are actually a pretty expensive clip the way they've designed them. And obviously the power handles are an absolute must in my opinion. I just think the world of those kind of devices. Now, I will say, there's one thing that you saw whenever I went to deadlift because this ring, so if I click this thing, so right now it clicked in and now you hear that noise. So this is a very big difference from the Speediance to the tonal. And so I'm adding one more thing to the review that I think is very important for you to realize, that when you turn on the tonal, all of its stuff connects immediately. And so it's all connected ahead of time. So if you go to turn on the handles, turn on anything with it not connected into the device in any way, it's already connected. So it's turning it on, right? This, you wake up the individual device by itself to keep the battery life, because all of these are charging. So they all have like batteries in them, and they have, their own like lithium ion batteries. Whereas the tonal stuff is all actual batteries that you put into it. So they're all, I think, AA, AAA battery. I think they're AAA batteries. Can't remember. I've only had to replace them. I've had to replace them twice on the tonal. And every time I go to do it, I always forget. I think they're AA's, maybe. Some of them are AAA, some of them are AA. I don't remember. But there's a whole bunch of batteries. There's actually batteries in the arms too, in the tonal, which you really forget about, and I only had to replace those once. And you forget about them, and then everything stops working. This has no batteries anywhere. These are all charged devices, but because they're charged devices and not battery operated, they actually need to turn on, like you have to turn them on separately of turning on the machine. They don't automatically wake up because they're Bluetooth and they have their own small batteries inside them that are rechargeable. And rechargeable batteries just don't have the kind of lifespan of a regular battery. You'd never want to put rechargeable batteries in your tonal. I thought about doing that, and that is a very big mistake. You want to use, fresh, Duracell, or the Amazon Basics batteries work too, but like you want to use good quality batteries. These things, because of the way they work, you have to wake them up first, and you can see I didn't do that, and you had to wait for me to turn on these devices. These are little things that my wife didn't understand when we switched to the device, and so I have to kind of teach her, like, hey, you turn on the device first, so you turn on this, and then we turn on the handles, and then you go, right? We turn everything on, and then you start your workout. Otherwise, you will get frustrated. That's a big one with this in particular that's just different. And the other big criticism from my wife so far, I will tell you my criticism of the wife, because she's been using this, because like I said, she boycotted my tonal after, in that tonal video I go over, she boycotted the tonal after my cable frayed. And so she's been using this to work out, and her big criticism of this is their workouts adjust these levers far too often and adjust the implements far too often. And that I noticed too, and I'm just gonna have to give her a set of custom workouts that I think are maximally beneficial for her, and go from there so that she's not doing the Speediance workouts, to be honest with you. So there's a bunch of Speediance workouts, and they should be pretty cool. You know, there are a lot on here of different things that you can do. You can see it's recommending something. But you can see in here, like this is handle, this is barbell, you know, this is barbell different position, this is barbell different. Every single thing on here is a different position. Like literally they don't move through two things at the same position. And for someone like me and my wife who want to do all of their stuff back to back to back, so we want to superset everything that we do. This makes it impossible to superset. Like you can't superset this workout at all because you have to move the thing. That's a huge flaw in the way I think their workouts are designed. But for someone like me who always did their own custom workouts, not a big deal. For someone like my wife who always does the workout they recommend right here, I'm gonna have to create for her custom workouts and figure out what I think is optimal for her situation. Because this is ludicrous. I mean, you're literally changing implements and changing handle positions every single time, which is just time consuming. And it's not that time consuming, but if you're someone like me who wants to get in, get out, hit, exercise, warm up, workout, then this methodology is honestly garbage. Like it's just not the way I would do things. And it was one of the things that I asked in the Speediance community, and they didn't have great answers of like what workouts for her to do. It was more go the custom route, and even in custom you can't pick by arm position, which is something that I hope they add. It's something that Tonal added at some point in time, the ability to filter by arm position. That because now I have to kind of guess what the arm position should be, and you can see it in the picture, right? You can roughly see in the picture where the arm position is, but the ability to filter on arm position would be a massive benefit. There's small things that would be massive benefits that the Tonal has added throughout the years that I have a feeling this company will add. So Apple Health integration isn't there unless you have an Apple Watch. There's like small things that I wanted, and I reached out to them. And the one thing is, when you reach out to them, they say, hey, we haven't started working on this. We plan it for like Apple Health integration outside of the Apple Watch. They're like, hey, we plan it for Q3. And I'm a developer, so what that means is it's probably not coming by the end of the year, but it's on the radar. And for me, that's awesome. You know what I mean? For them to be transparent with, hey, this is on our radar. We already have it on our roadmap. It's not a high priority item. So it's slated for Q3. That to me is awesome, because when you reach out to Tonal with feedback, like you want an adjustable bench or back squats, especially back squats, it's dead silence from the company. And the user community has to theorize they think back squats are too dangerous for us. The company won't tell you that. Adjustable bench, there's never been an answer. Like this device has been out for 5 years plus, doesn't have an adjustable bench, doesn't support an adjustable bench, doesn't support adjustable bench movements, and the company won't even tell us why. Whereas Speediance, it's like, yep, we've got this slated, not the top of our roadmap. It's already in our to-do list. And I think that's just awesome. Like, and this is a company that like is not an English first company. I could tell whenever I was talking to them, and their feedback was phenomenal to me. And even on the power supply issue, I reached out to them on that to see, hey, is this dangerous? And they're like, no. We have a lot of them like that. It's very variable, how loud these things are going to be. That's normal. That's within the tolerable range for Speediance's acceptance criteria for shipping these things out. Because I reached out and said, hey, this is my exact loudness on it. And to me, that's a totally acceptable answer. And, I had PCs, like I said, that were louder than this device. So I really feel like my experience with Speediance, the company so far, has been great. I know the Speediance official channel, you see all of these horror stories of like things that went wrong. But the one thing that I also see in that Speediance channel is A, they allow freedom of speech. Like people can post that. You can't post that in the Tonal official channel, and people don't realize that. That is heavily monitored. Anything potentially negative can't go in there. Anything support related can't go in there. And they won't get back to you, by the way. If it's support related, they won't get back to you. Just to let you know, you have to call them to get them to, and then your mileage may vary on whether they actually just tell us, pay us more money, or actually handle your support issue. So with Speediance, they allow freedom of speech in their thing, so you're seeing all of these reports of things that go wrong, and you're also seeing people from within the company trying to fix it for these people, right? Which I think, and sometimes it takes a while. Like, you got to realize with these machines, you might have an issue that causes you to not be able to work out for a week or two, right? You, in my opinion, need to have a backup system, right? For me, my backup system is right back here. I have adjustable dumbbells, I have a full squat rack, I have a full weight set downstairs, I have a full backup system of what happens if one or both of these machines stop working. Some people don't have that luxury, but just realize with any of these digital cable machines, you have to be prepared for them to stop working. Even the Tonal, and the Tonal company is not going to be any faster than these guys. In fact, they might, if you're out of warranty, good luck even having Tonal do anything without saying pay us first. They're not gonna, from my experience with that company, they're not gonna support you in any way. Speediance, if you're out of warranty, they'll say, hey, here's the replacement parts, here's how to do it. They'll send you links on step-by-step guides. From what I've seen, they're absolutely great to their customers. They're not gonna say, pay us money and we'll even discuss this, right? So I've been very happy so far. It's been like a month and a half with this device, and now I got this one yesterday. It's gonna go up in my office today, and I'm super excited to start the journey with Speediance. Start it all over again. 9 million pounds lifted on Tonal. I wanna see if I can hit 30 million pounds on these devices in the next 10 years. So yeah, I wanna see if I can hit 30 million pounds lifted on these guys. So we'll have it, 9 million on the original cable machine, and I wanna have even more weight. So 10 years, 30 million pounds is the goal. So, and over 10 year span, what you don't realize is in one day, you can't get much done. You might be able to get 10, you might be able to get 20,000 pounds. You might be able to get 50,000 pounds on a day where you just torture yourself, right? And with this machine, I can do deadlifts, which means I can hit that poundage goal a lot faster, because this thing actually hammers my quads, actually works my body on these heavy lifts. So I'm actually going to be able to hit the weight a lot faster, because I can do some of the workouts that I just said I'm not going to do on the Tonal. Because it felt really uncomfortable, max weight, 20 rep sets of 200 pounds deadlifting. And it's like, what's the point? I'm just doing a cardio workout at this point in time. And I don't do cardio on these machines. So at this thing, I can feel it. That's 6. I did 3 reps yesterday. I did 6 reps today. And I felt every bit of it. So I'm very hopeful. This was my review, or my kind of first look review of the 2S, comparing it to the original Speediance. Thank you for your time. Again, like and subscribe. I can put out a bunch more videos on different pieces of equipment that I've bought throughout the years. I'm a big technology fan, obviously. These aren't my only pieces of equipment, but these are definitely, my new favorites, that's for sure. Thank you.